when I went to NYU in the early 60s, 1960, I think it was, it certainly wasn't the NYU we know today. It was a Washington Square College, which I enrolled in. It was quite small. And the introduction to film really wasn't a film school, so to speak. There were film departments, along with radio and television. But the introduction to film was split into the first 2 semesters that we call History of Motion Pictures 1 and 2. This along with all the other required courses for the first 2 years of the school. Our teacher was a man named Haig Manoogian of Armenian descent. And from the first class, he talked very, very, very fast, almost like a drill instructor. And he covered a lot of ground very quickly. And I remember sitting there just, taking endless notes. He'd show a film. And if he thought a student was just there for, to waste time, just take it easy and watch movies, he would throw them out, basically. So he weeded people out. And in our second year, we took an introductory kind of production course. We had 16 millimeter cameras, and it was called Sight and Sound. And we learned the rudiments of filmmaking, the very basic elements of lenses, using 16 millimeter black and white film. We did little exercises. And by the end of the semester, by the end of the year, I think it was, we were able to make a 3 to 4 minute film based on what we had learned about the equipment and lighting and that sort of thing. In those classes, more people were weeded out. What Haig focused on, ultimately, he was heavily influenced by the Italian neorealism and new wave filmmaking, but he really focused on the individual voice, the individual stories that you felt that you had to tell. And he wouldn't let anyone direct unless they had written the film themselves, separate from a nonfiction film I'm talking about. And if you didn't write it yourself, basically you're out of the class. I remember one student telling him, I want to direct. And he says, okay, where's your script? And he said, well, I need a script. I'm a director. He said, no, go write your script. Otherwise, you can't do it. He also, we found ourselves at odds because, he hated melodrama. He said, I don't want to see any of you kids going for a shot where somebody picks up a gun. He was encouraging everyone to express themselves and protect that spark in themselves and not be influenced by other kinds of filmmaking. If they wanted that sort of thing, they'd go into television or go to Los Angeles. It was a different situation. It was a little different for me because I grew up in a world where at times people had access to guns and, that was part of life or a fact of life at times. So melodrama turned out to be drama to a certain extent. And eventually that led to Mean Streets and other films I made, but that was in the early 70s. He was really developing individual voices that would make very, very different kinds of film. What he was finally getting to was the understanding or comprehension of cinema itself. He never used that word, motion pictures, you could say film, cinema, movies, but he always said motion pictures. He was trying to get for us to understand what is the potential of the moving image and the cut, so to speak. Now, what that means is a kind of immersion in the process, an immersion in the process, which means not only the writing, the working, and the script, and the page, or a paragraph could be a script, of course, but one would have to work it out in the shooting with non-actors, with actors, or simply images without people in the frame. It comes to the point of where you take the images and you're in an editing room, quote unquote, or computer these days or whatever, and you put it together to tell a narrative. Now, the narrative could be about the color blue. It could be about the color red. It could be about music. It could be music itself. The nature of the actual moving image, even if it's a still image, has another quality which is different from a still photograph and a painting and a piece of music. So all of this is about understanding the value of cinema itself and recreating it constantly from yourself, okay? And that even deals with narrative cinema. So, of course. So what he talked about was always the value of a shot, value of a shot. And I didn't understand until we were in the editing process of a number of us. We'd shoot something with the intention of using it one way or in one section of the film, let's say. And then at some point when we really get into the editing of the picture, and because of so many different changes and so many different decisions that were made that you don't expect, suddenly you found yourself using a shot that you thought was meant for one place and you're using it in another place, and it makes sense. And I remember him becoming very excited when one or two of us did that. He goes, now you understand the value of a shot. The shot is a value in and of itself, no matter what you shot it for. It may not matter. It may not matter ultimately. It takes on its own life. It takes on its own intention, and it takes on its own essence in a way. And this is something that you can't teach. You have to just do it. But this was the excitement I saw him, and the way I saw he was so excited when the student or one of us, I forget who it was now, when we stumbled on this, he goes, now you get what I've been talking about. And we mentioned, yeah, but Professor, he said, when Truffaut said that, when he was editing a film and it's going one way, he would tend to want to cut it to go another way. And he said, I don't believe that. And he said, that's part of the process. He thinks he's doing that, but he's going to a final point somewhere in the telling of the story, whether it's José Jim and whether it's Le Peau Douce. I mean, it's going somewhere. The essence of what he gave us, with the essence, the spark, he was the inspiration. He was the one to give me the confidence to become a filmmaker, to come from this other world, and suddenly be able to express myself with film that might even be shown in theaters at some point, or might be shown to an audience. You can't learn to make a film in school. You can have the opportunity to make a film in school. You have to learn it yourself. Great thing about the film school is the inspiration and the ability to give you the confidence if you have something that you really feel passionate about. And I think that's the greatest thing any teacher or any guide could give a student. That is the confidence and the inspiration to make you think, well, it's crazy, but maybe I can do it.